was just completely blown away by just being in his presence. And I guess that that was really what struck me, I think, when I first got there.
Very warm welcome to all of you from wherever you're watching and listening. Welcome to the Iyengar Yoga Podcast. It's a new collaboration between RunToYoga and Claudia Iyengar, myself. I'm Claudia. Very pleased to meet you and to present this podcast to you. We had this idea, RunToYoga, Eva and Anna from RunToYoga, to pass the knowledge of Iyengar Yoga in the sense of parampara, the transition of knowledge in a lineage, to future generations of yoga practitioners. So we are very happy to have a huge response from long-term practitioners, teachers of Iyengar Yoga that will join us in the upcoming sessions. And today it's Elizabeth Bress. So we are very happy that she's here to talk about her yoga path with us. Stay connected, stay in touch. You can subscribe to the podcast. Also check out our Instagram profiles, RunToYoga and Claudia Iyengar. We will surely share knowledge and informations and updates, so you will not miss an episode of the podcast. So enjoy and see you soon. Welcome to Elizabeth Bress. We're so happy to have you. Thank you so much for your time. Very good to have you on the very first episode of our podcast. So you've been around a really long time in the Iyengar Yoga community and as a long-standing practitioner. So when and why did you start with Iyengar Yoga?
Started Iyengar Yoga actually this year will mark 40 years. So in 1985. So that's when and why. It was just really curiosity because some friends of mine were taking, I just did yoga at that time. They were taking yoga and they really loved the teacher and they loved the class. So I was curious. So I went along too.
Okay, that's really nice. 40 years is quite some time. So, when did you then travel first time to Pune?
I traveled to Pune the first time was in 1997. Yeah. So I
So,
had already been doing, for 12 years. Yoga then. And I
oh,
was already a teacher as well.
okay, great. And everyone was still around. Who was teaching at that time?
Well, Guruji was, of course, around. He wasn't officially teaching classes anymore, but he was always in the practice hall. So, we had the practice sessions. So he was always there when we were practicing. And then Gitaji and Prashantji were teaching the classes that I took at that time. And he was just always in the hall in the back and would often interrupt and start teaching. So, it's a great experience.
Yeah. So what do you remember, like the most impressive thing that you remember from this first travel or
Hmm.
to Pune? Was it also the first trip to India?
It wasn't my first time to India. I had been in India in 1991, traveling for 3 months through the south of India. So it was my second time in India, but first
Mhm.
time to the Institute.
So what is your
One of
purest memory of that? You just remembers, you remembered Guruji, something else that really struck you or you hadn't expected maybe from that time.
I think, his presence, you study this yoga and then you are in the presence of the person who developed this method that was taught even then around the world. I was living at that time in the United States where I'm from. So I had traveled really far, and then you're there. And I was struck by the school. His home is right there, and the school, it's just 3 steps away. So you felt this real intimacy, and I was just completely blown away by just being in his presence. And I guess that that was really what struck me, I think, when I first got there. And because he had a presence, and those of us who have been there even since he died, just we still feel his presence there.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
So how often did you travel to Pune then in the following years? And
Um, I then had a 10-year break because in those 10 years, I moved to Germany, I got married, I had children. So I continued my studies here in Germany but I couldn't make it to Pune just because of life things. But then after that, after 2007, my younger daughter was born in 2006. So then after, I started going again more regularly after that.
Mhm. So, what were the changes then, or were there already some changes? I mean, I think the last time you went now to the fifth anniversary, right?
To the
Completely.
50th, yeah, to the 50th, yeah, this year, yeah, in January, yeah, I was there. I mean, it's changed. I mean, during those 10 years when I had a break, there was what we cut was like the sort of second boom of yoga in the West, around the early 2000s. The first one, if you think we're in the 1960s, late 60s, early 70s. Um, and then this one again where it became that there was this boom. So the institute itself had physically changed in those 2 years. They had expanded it where there used to be this small balcony around and the room was smaller, the yoga hall. They expanded it, they got rid of those balconies and they expanded it to accommodate all the people. So that was a big surprise just because there hadn't been, of course there was a lot of Westerners when I was there in the 90s, but not like it was then when I went in the sort of early mid 2000s. It had just so many people from so many more countries were there. Um, so it was different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going back to the teachers, I mean, you have been traveling, studying all over the world with different teachers. So, what, in your opinion, is or makes a good Iyengar yoga teacher? What would you say?
Hmm. I mean, one thing I love about in our community, there's such a diversity of Iyengar yoga teachers, people come from different backgrounds often before they start becoming teachers. There's people who have who are doctors of different sciences, engineer, biology, doctors. There's people who have a background in art, art history, dance, so you have people from so many different backgrounds, social sciences, and they bring their perspective, literature, philosophy. So what their interests, their perspectives. So I love that diversity. But I think what makes a good Iyengar yoga teacher, first, like any teacher, has to have a love of the subject. I think if you're passionate and you love the subject, and you want to share it. Some people are passionate, they love the subject, but more in their own research, they love it. But other people have a passion to share and to really get into of teaching, how to transmit what you love. And you feel that when you're in the presence of someone who really loves to share the knowledge and thinks about different ways that people learn and makes the subject lively, relevant, um, personal, universal, all of those things.
I think when you started your own education of long-standing practitioners who wanted to attempt to become an Iyengar yoga teacher, I think you mentioned, well, first of all, a good teacher is a good practitioner, so practice is quite good. So your mentorship program in Berlin, how long? When did you start it?
We started it, I would say, as soon as Pune asked the international community to move away from teacher training to mentorship. Um, So Katman Vogt, my colleague at the studio, we decided to start this together. So we've now, it's like the system, how it always was, it's a minimum of a 3-year program, and people have to have already done, for us, we want to have a minimum of consistent 3-year practice before. For us, it's a lot about training our long-term students who are keen to go deeper and to teach. That was really for us the natural process
Mhm.
of our, just training people who were already practicing teaching.
So you would say that the relationship between a teacher and a student is important
Oh yeah.
to pass on knowledge and to make teachers out of students, let's say.
Oh, it's everything. I was very lucky because my teacher training with Joan White, who she just moved, but she was for many, many years in my hometown in Philadelphia. So I was very lucky because Joan was at that time and still is a mentor to me. Um, we, yeah, so
Doesn't
I feel
stop.
like it's an ongoing relationship. It wasn't something that I just said, okay, I want to be a teacher. Um, and she's going to train me to be a teacher, and it's just an ongoing relationship now since I was 25. I
Yeah.
feel very blessed, so for me that's my model. um
Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, when we decided on this podcast, Eva and Anna from RunToYoga and myself, we were thinking of exactly the spirit that we find in the Iyengar Yoga parampara, the unbroken passing on of knowledge within a certain tradition. And so clearly, this is also where the idea of mentorship comes, and in all the passing of knowledge, experience, and also, of course, as you said, the joy, the passion for the subject and for the practice. So I assume that in your mentorship, it's not necessarily the case that your mentees have to end or be done in 3 years so they could take their time. Is this correct?
Exactly, because people are coming from different places in their life, different ages, different work and family responsibilities. So it's a communication between us and the mentee if we both find it's the right time. For example, there was one woman, I thought she was ready, but she wasn't ready. She wanted to wait a year. And she was clear, and in the end, it was the right decision for her. And we wanted to support her in that. She had some work pressure, some family issues, and it was the right decision because she wanted to show up really feeling like, yes, this is right for me. And these are adults; they're not children. So it's a communication between us.
So, almost at the same time that Pune expressed the wish to transform from teacher training and towards mentorship, came the transition and the changing of the certification system in Iyengar Yoga. So, what would you, as also a long-standing member of the board and of the certificate committee, in Germany today, what would you say are clearly the advantages of the new way of doing exams, examining the students? What would you say, in your opinion, has changed for the better? And where maybe there has to be some more changes, development, to even, more accommodate this kind of exam system now in our world today.
Yeah, Pune gave us guidelines to change because I think there were problems for many people with the exams. And of course, to make it more, how do you say it? To, to help people feel that the exam process is a good experience, right? Ultimately, you are showing what you've learned. And you want to make sure that it's well structured so people can do that in a positive way. And how it had been, there were complaints around the world. So now it takes longer, the exams. Pune wanted there to be much more communication between the assessors and the people coming up for the assessments. And that's the case now. It went from being one day and lots of people to in Germany, it takes a day and a half. I think in other countries, even longer. And we limit the amount of people that can be in the exam. So there can be much more dialogue, much more communication, and really see people more holistically, which I really think is important. Again, life is complicated. We're complicated. So it's able to get a fuller picture. So when people are there, that we can really see them. I mean, it was always taken account, people are nervous, but just to take some of that edge out. And I think it's worked really well from my experience as an assessor. I think the ones I've been to, it seems to have been working well.
Yeah. Okay. So clearly, all these new changes since the pandemic, a lot has changed in the way we teach, also in the way of staying in contact with our students or with our teachers, with our mentors. So how has it developed for yourself? If I remember it correctly, you started a very interesting study group, Sadhana Circle. Maybe you can say a few words about that and the aim of this circle.
Yeah, I did. I started during the pandemic, an online group. I mean, things for me often happen kind of organically, where it wasn't really, I mean, I had been interested before the pandemic in online yoga, and it was strange because then when the pandemic happened, I quickly was able to embrace it because I was already kind of interested in it. And then because I was doing it very early, a lot of people were taking my class before a lot of my colleagues also started teaching online. So had a lot of people, many I hadn't seen for a long time from around the world because I teach mainly in English. In Berlin, I always had a lot of international students. And then suddenly I saw people who had moved away, back to their country. And then I saw them again. It was great. It was this, way to reconnect. And then with the weekly classes, like we have at our studio, we have workshops to go deeper into themes. And I saw the pandemic was going on longer than people were expecting. So in 2021, I decided to have this online membership with a very short, small monthly fee, where then we would meet once a month to have a 2-hour workshop, something we do in the studio, and also have a Q&A, because I and the students were really missing this sort of conversations that happen before and after class. That's often when, people can talk and ask questions and say personal things. So we always have a 2-hour workshop and then like a 45-minute Q&A. And then from that, there was a lot of teachers in the group who started asking questions about teaching, which wasn't really relevant for people who weren't teachers. So I started having a separate teachers group for people who are in the membership who wanted to talk about teaching questions, and that's also been going on now I think that came later. I think that came in 2022. And everything's recorded, so people miss it. There's a portal, and it's just grown. It's been really amazing. It's like I said, it's friends. I have a friend who I knew in my 20s when I lived in Amsterdam. She's in Australia. She's in the group. She does Iyengar Yoga, and I get to see her every second month because of the time difference. I mean, I enjoy it.
Okay, very good to hear. Marking the 50th anniversary of the Institute in Pune, everyone has been searching in their archives for recordings of Iyengar, and there are some kind of a few recordings that really are wonderful to watch from his demonstration. And you mentioned recordings and that they're a part of your work with this community Sadhana Circle. So, how do you work with recordings in your weekly teaching? And do you think that is an interesting tool? I know people that are only renting recordings because of time issues. Yeah, how does this influence our work? Do you, for example, already think how to address someone who will be watching the video only afterwards?
That's really interesting question. That's really interesting. I mean, I have to say, even though I'm interested in technology, I'm very low tech. So the recordings that I make for Sadhana Circle, I mean, now I'm in my new yoga room. I didn't have this until a couple weeks ago. I was always teaching in my living room. So I'm in my living room, and it's very low tech, very doesn't look super professional on Zoom, but the content is what's important, the content. And those recordings are there for the people if they can't make it live. I mean, I teach all my classes at the studio hybrid, but I only record my advanced class because I guess I feel that um, even though I've made recordings, I think as a teacher and as a practitioner, I want to be careful with that because I take also live online classes. And I think when it's live, you have the possibility that the teacher can see you. And if there's a question, you can ask it. So I am hesitant with beginners. I think if I would make a video, a recording for beginners, I would make it very clear that this is for beginners and what to do and what not to do. I think recordings are wonderful. I use them myself if I miss a class, if my teacher offers it. But I think it's the more knowledge somebody has, and then you can kind of say the parameters, okay, if you have your periods, you're going to do this. If you have back, and if you don't know the teacher, you don't know that they're going to offer unless you have that experience to take care of yourself. There's a potential problem there. So I think recordings are great for people with experience. I wouldn't personally, as a beginner, I know people love them. My own daughter uses YouTube videos. But I yeah, I'm hesitant. I wouldn't
Yeah, you would recommend
recommend. I
being.
would always a live teacher and always in person is always best. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. So yeah, we looked at your last 40 years of Iyengar yoga practice and traveling and living in different countries even. So you have seen a lot of change and surely you influenced in a positive way the changes within the community. Also, as we said, a board member and certification committee member. So what would be your wish for the future of Iyengar yoga or your hope?
Oh, I mean, the most basic wish is that it continues to thrive and helping people in their lives. Because I think so many people are struggling on so many different levels. I mean, this has always been the human life, right? We have stress, we have struggles, inner and outer, and yoga can offer so much insight and so much potential for our own growth, our own well-being. And for me personally, Iyengar Yoga has made all the difference in my life. I mean, countless ways, made such a huge difference. So I want to other people to have that benefit. And I think it's going to be harder going forward because Guruji, Gitaji aren't alive anymore. So those of us who have had that experience and the first generation of teachers are also getting older, so we have to continue to go to Pune to study with the Iyengar family and their close teachers in India, and I think to be sincere in our efforts to that it comes from there, it comes from them, and we are just sharing what we learn, and hopefully to keep inspiring. and helping more people to benefit from this wonderful practice.
Well, it's been truly inspiring talking to you. And thank you very much for sharing also your very personal experiences along the way. So, yeah,
My pleasure.
thank you very, very much. And stay connected, stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and see you soon for the next episode.
Thank you. Thank you.